Hello, my name is Daniela and my pronouns are she, her.
My name is Julianna and my pronouns are she, her.
We're field placement students with For a Safer Space. Today we will be demonstrating the middle session of therapy using cognitive behavioral therapy, where I will be in the role of the therapist and Julianna the client. We'll start with a land acknowledgement. Toronto is in the dish with one spoon territory. The dish with one spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. The land acknowledgement is just our first step in working towards truth and reconciliation. All the skills we demonstrate today will come from the book CBT Made Simple, A Clinician's Guide to Practicing Cognitive Behavioral Therapy by Josefowitz, Mirren, and Segal. We will be using questions and example scripts from the novel, but in particularly, we will draw from the example of Suzanne that is presented throughout the book.
And we will just be going over some CBT definitions before we begin. So CBT is a psychotherapy modality that is based on evidence in order to understand and treat psychological problems where the client forms goals in the beginning session that will be focused on throughout therapy. Therefore, the relationship between thoughts, feelings, physical reactions, and behavior is focused on and understood to see how they perpetuate a client's circumstances. We will also be talking about some skills demonstrated. These ones will be demonstrated throughout this second session. So checking in with your client, setting an agenda for the session, identifying triggers and reactions, such as identifying feelings, physical reactions, behaviors, and thoughts, finding hot thoughts, creating a balanced thought, assigning homework, and reviewing the session and asking for feedback.
And with that, we will begin the role play. Hello, good to see you. We spent some time getting an idea of your problems and setting goals for therapy. I want to explain how I'd like to structure the actual therapy sessions. Each week when you come in, I would like to start with a brief check-in so that you can bring me up to date on anything that has happened in your life since our last session, and we can get a sense of how you're doing. Then I want to make a list of what you would like to talk about during our therapy session. I find this helps make our sessions a bit more focused, and that way I can be sure that what we talk about is what is most important for you. I call this agenda setting. Often, you and I will have decided on some homework that you're going to try in between sessions. If you had any homework, I will check on how it went. And at the end of the session, we'll spend some time summarizing what we've covered and make sure that we are on the right track for you. We will also see if there's any homework that makes sense for you to try before our next session. How does this sound?
Yeah, that sounds okay.
Okay, so how was your week?
Well, my week's been pretty much the same and pretty awful. I did the homework and I have it here.
It's great you did the homework. I want to follow up on it, but first I want to get an overall sense of your week and check on what we need to focus on today. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that sounds like it would be okay.
I was wondering, if you were to rate your mood over the past week, where would you put it?
Probably overall 7. I just felt really down most of the time. I was pretty down most of the week, honestly. Home is still the same, and I can't stand the new school. I think the teachers are really awful, and no matter how hard I try, I just don't fit in. One of the teachers asked me what I do at lunch, since she doesn't see me ever in the lunchroom. I just didn't know what to say to her.
Sounds like you were pretty upset by the teacher's comment. Before we talk more about it, I want to check if that's the main thing you wanted to talk about or whether there were any other issues.
No, that just happened this morning. I don't really want to spend time on it. It's not that important.
Okay, I want to spend a few minutes making a list of what you would like to focus on today. And I also want to be sure that we do spend some time going over the homework.
Okay. I guess the main issue I want to talk about is that I got an invitation from the principal to a barbecue at her home for the new teachers. I'm really anxious and not sure if I should go.
That sounds like an important issue. Is there anything else you want to discuss?
Actually, yes. I've been really angry with my husband this past week. He promised to take care of the kids on the weekend and ended up working. Those are the two big ones I want to talk about.
Between the barbecue and being angry with your husband, where would you like to start?
I think the barbecue, since I've been really anxious about that one. The issue with my husband doesn't feel as urgent.
Would it be okay if we start looking at the homework, then spending some time talking about the invitation to the barbecue? And if we have time, we can finish with looking at how angry you've been with your husband.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
Okay, for homework, you were going to notice situations where you felt unhappy and rate this. How did the homework go?
The homework helped me realize what situations get me into the worst moods and helped me realize where some of my anger comes from. This week was not very eventful besides a few things we already discussed.
For the homework, you mentioned situations where you were most unhappy. I was wondering if you noticed any particular situations that caused this unhappiness.
Yeah, I noticed that I was most unhappy in situations that involved other teachers at my new school. In these situations, I usually felt like an 8, 9, or 10 on the scale. And in situations that involved my husband, I only ever used a 6 on the scale.
What happened in the situation with the other teachers in particular?
Well, I was standing alone at recess and they were all standing in a group talking.
Okay, and who in particular was involved?
It was just me and 3 other teachers.
Okay, and where in particular did it happen?
It happened at my new school in the schoolyard.
Okay, and what part of the day did it happen at?
It happened during the lunch hour recess.
Okay, I want to make sure I understand the main issue you want to discuss today. The principal invited you to a barbecue. Can you tell me a bit more?
Yeah, it wasn't just me. The principal invited all of the new teachers to her home for a barbecue.
Okay, you mentioned in our last session that you found that charts and lists were helpful, and I think I have one that would help us better understand your situation. Do you mind if I screen share so that we can work on it together?
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so this is the understand your reactions chart. So we'll go through situations, feelings, physical reactions, and behaviors and thoughts, and we'll kind of make a list here. Can you give me a
Okay.
better sense of what's involved with the barbecue? For example, who was invited, where it's happening, and when? And I can just write it down.
Okay. So I was invited along with 3 other new teachers.
Okay.
And it's happening in 2 weeks after school.
Okay, and you mentioned the principal invited you as well?
Yes.
Okay. And then I think you did a really good job of identifying this situation. What I would like to do now is see if we can understand your reaction by identifying how your feelings, physical reactions, behaviors, and thoughts all fit together. This is called the 4-factor model. If you remember, I discussed it a bit last week.
Yeah,
So
I
what are
kind
your,
of remember.
okay, that's great. What are your feelings about going to the principal's barbecue?
I just don't want to go.
Okay, I hear that you don't want to go, but I'm wondering what are your feelings are when you think of the invitation?
I don't know, a mix of emotions, I guess.
Okay, well, feelings are usually expressed in one word. While there are many feelings, it would be helpful to ask yourself whether you are feeling happy, mad, sad, anxious, guilty, ashamed, or any other feeling.
Okay. I was really nervous and worried, and I think also embarrassed.
Okay, so nervous, worried, and also embarrassed?
Yeah, exactly those feelings.
Okay, so I'll write this down. You did a really great job of identifying your feelings. I think it would be helpful if we could look at each feeling and rate how strongly you felt them from 1 to 10. 10 would be the strongest you have ever felt this feeling, and 1 would be not at all. Would you be willing to give this a try?
Well, sure. Where do I start?
Why don't we start with the first feeling you listed, which was nervous? When you think of the invitation, 1 to 10, how nervous are you?
About a 7.
Okay. The next feeling you listed was worried. If you were to rate this, how worried are you?
About an 8.
Okay. And the last feeling you mentioned was embarrassed. How would you rate this one?
Probably a 6.
Okay, you did a great job of rating your feelings. And just to summarize, you were nervous at a 7, worried at an 8, and embarrassed at a 6. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, and it's all written down correctly?
Yeah.
How did your body react when you got the invitation to the barbecue?
I guess my stomach started to clench and I could feel my shoulders tensing.
Okay. Can we take a moment to rate your physical reactions?
Sure. My stomach clenching was a 4 and my shoulders tensing was a 5.
Okay, when this happens, something that can be useful is to pause, take notice of how your body is reacting, and describe the reaction. What was your behavior in reaction to getting the invitation?
I didn't respond and I still haven't RSVP'd.
Okay, I want to be sure I understand what you did exactly.
Okay, I stayed very quiet, like very awkwardly silent. It was kind of embarrassing.
Okay, you've done a great job of identifying your feelings, physical reactions, and behavior. Let's see if we can also identify your thoughts. What thoughts went through your mind?
I don't know, just that I don't want to go and all the other teachers will be there.
Okay, some of your thoughts are, I don't want to go, the other teachers will all be there. Are there maybe any other thoughts?
No, that's about it.
Are there any thoughts along the lines of maybe I won't fit in? I think you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, actually, that one as well.
Okay. So you were thinking that you were just going to end up standing there looking awkward and that no one will talk to you. Can I also write this down?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. I want to be sure I understand what about the invitation to the barbecue is so distressing for you. What is it about being there with all the other new teachers that is so distressing?
It's not just the invitation, it's just being there with all the other new teachers. It's hard to figure out, but I guess that I just won't fit in. I think my biggest fear is that they won't want to be my friend.
Okay, so it sounds like the big fear is they won't want to be my friend. Is there anything about you that would result in them not wanting to be your friend?
No, just that no one will want to be my friend and I'll be there all alone.
Okay, let's take a moment and go back to the situation in your mind. Can you focus on the feeling? Just before you started having this feeling, what went through your mind or what were your thoughts?
But none of the teachers are talking to me and I'm standing all alone.
Okay, now that we have a sense of the 4 factors that are impacting you, I wanted to know if you see any relationships that are present.
Sort of. I wasn't really aware that I had all of those thoughts.
Okay, when I look at your thoughts, it makes sense to me that you would be worried or not respond. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes sense that if all these thoughts were going through my head, I would feel anxious.
Okay, can you explain the link among the 4 factors in your own words?
Yeah, to me, it almost seems like a chain reaction. Once one thing happens, such as a feeling, the physical reactions, behaviors, and thoughts follow soon after. In the end, I realized this is all what makes me so anxious in these situations.
Okay, I want to start with looking for evidence that supports your main thought that no one will want to talk to me. Can I screen share another chart that we can work on?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to add that to here for the thought I want to examine. And now, what makes you think that this might be true?
Well, I know that I'll feel anxious when I go to the barbecue.
Okay. I hear that you'll feel anxious, but I wonder if there are any facts that support your belief that no one will want to talk to you.
What do you mean by this?
If I wanted to prove that no one would want to talk to you, I would have to back up my opinion with facts. For example, if you were in a court of law, the judge would look only at the facts. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I guess what about the fact that I hardly know any of the other teachers? Does that count?
Of course, that's a fact. I wonder, how is it related to no one wanting to talk to you?
Well, none of them have made an effort to talk to me, and I usually stand alone at recess and eat lunch by myself too.
Okay, so we'll write down what you said just to be sure we don't forget. How would you put all of that in your own words? And is there any other evidence that maybe makes you think no one will want to talk to me?
I guess this mainly just happens at lunch and recess.
Okay.
Maybe also when I arrive in the morning, since no one ever says hi to me or smiles.
Is there anything else? Or is that all? Is there maybe anything in your past that would cause you to think no one would want to be my friend?
Yeah, actually, when I was in high school in my senior year, there was a group of really awful girls who made my life miserable. They wanted to use my house for a drinking party when my parents were away for the weekend, and I said no. So they spread awful rumors about me, and I almost lost all my friends.
That sounds terrible. I'm going to write this down. And it must have been very upsetting to have this happen. Is this when the thought no one wanted to be my friend started?
It was pretty awful, but yeah, that's when I became more self conscious and started worrying about people liking me. Before that, I just had a bunch of friends that I always hung out with.
It sounds like it really changed your outlook. In another session, it might be important for us to talk about what happened in high school. But for now, could we just put this down in the evidence for column?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. And can you just take a quick rundown, look it over, and make sure we're good with this?
Yeah.
Okay. And have you had any experiences that suggest that people may want to be your friend?
Yeah, actually, at my other school, I did have some friends.
That's great. And when you say you had some friends, can you tell me a bit about them?
Yeah, I had two very good friends. Their names were Rita and Faiza. We ate lunch together and worked on the school plays together. We also often saw each other outside of school on the weekends.
Okay, so you ate lunch together. You also worked on the school play.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that I should add?
I guess that we actually saw each other out of school as well.
Okay. It sounds like you have really good friends. What do you think they would say if they knew you were thinking no one will want to be my friend?
They would say it was ridiculous, that of course people would want to be my friend.
And if they really wanted to convince you, what would be some of the evidence that they might share with you?
Well, they would remind me of all my friends that I had at my previous school. They would also remind me that they like me.
Okay, so they would remind you of your friends from your previous school and that they like you. How is the fact that they like you evidence against no one will want to be my friend?
Well, I guess that if they like me, other people might like me.
Do you think that this might be true?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, and I'm wondering if there's any positive information that you're ignoring.
When I think of it, I guess there actually might be quite a bit. I had lots of good friends who I still see, at least until I got depressed. They were from college. I also have a bunch of friends from my neighborhood that I see on the weekend.
Okay. Can you tell me more about your friends from college in your neighborhood? If there's anything else you'd like to add?
The friends from the neighborhood I usually see at the park on the weekend with my kids.
Okay.
And some of them are my very good friends, even some of my best friends.
That's great. I want to show you a worksheet that I think would also help determine how probable your predictions for the barbecue actually are. Would you be up for trying it?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so this is the sheet. And can you maybe list some things that you're afraid will happen?
Yeah, okay. I guess when I get there, everyone will be talking to each other and no one will say hi to me.
Okay, is there anything else?
If I approach one of the new teachers, she will turn her back on me.
Anything else?
I will stand there alone and no one will talk to me. Or sorry, no, I will talk to with no one to talk to.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I guess my final thought, if I go up to one of the other teachers, I will have nothing to say.
Okay. Can you maybe rate from 0 to 100% how likely each of these will occur?
Yeah, I guess the first scenario, 20.
Okay.
The second scenario, 20.
Mhm.
The third scenario, also 20.
Okay.
And the last one, pretty high at 80.
Okay. And why do you think that you will have nothing to say? And I can add this to the evidence that supports the probability.
Okay. Just that when I'm anxious, I often have difficulty finding something to talk about.
Okay. Can you think of anything that would dispute why you think that you'll have nothing to say that I can add to the evidence against this probability?
I guess that it's such a small group, the principal would make sure that everyone was talking to someone.
Okay, and now that we've looked at all the evidence and you have it all before you, can we re-rate this probability? You can take a minute if you need to think about it.
Sure. I guess for the first three, 0%,
Okay, that's great.
and only about 50% for having nothing to say.
Okay. One of your pieces of evidence to support your belief that no one will like you is that no one will talk to you at the barbecue. Can you describe to me what happens with the teachers that would make you think this?
Yeah, we each have an area we're responsible for during recess. And when I think about it, only the two teachers who are assigned to the soccer area stand together, and the rest of us usually just stand alone in the schoolyard.
Okay,
Some of the other teachers,
oh, sorry, continue.
that's okay. Some of the other teachers might approach each other and say a few words, but I just stand in the back of the schoolyard next to the swings.
Okay, so you just stand alone. Do I have this right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, it seems to me that when you think no one will want to be my friend, you're only considering the evidence that supports your thought. What happens when you consider all of this evidence?
I guess that doesn't seem to be so true.
In what way is it not so true?
Well, I do have friends who like me and want to be my friend. I think one of the problems is that I have been avoiding my friends from my old school.
I think you're right. We discovered that you have quite a few friends who like you. What would be a thought that captures all of this evidence?
Well, I guess that even though I haven't yet made friends at my new school, I had friends in the past, and there really is no reason I won't have friends in the future.
How much do you believe this thought? Can you maybe rate it from 0 to 100?
Yeah, I guess a 75.
Okay, that's great. And if you believe this balanced thought, how would this affect your feelings? And can you maybe re-rate your original feelings?
Yeah, so I guess Nervousness, about a 5, worried, about a 5, and embarrassed, a 4.
Okay, that's great. The balanced thought is that even though you haven't made friends yet at your new school, you still had friends in the past, and there's no reason you won't have friends in the future. I like the way that this balanced thought captures all of the evidence. Would you like to write this down either on your phone or on a card so you can keep it with you as a reminder?
Yeah, I'll make a note now in my phone.
Okay, great. And can you repeat this thought out loud now for me?
Yeah, even though I haven't made friends yet at my new school, I still had friends in the past, and there is no reason that I won't have friends in the future.
It might also be helpful to regularly review this balanced thought, especially if you maybe review it in the morning, since you mentioned in the past that you're tired before bed. How does this sound?
That makes sense.
Okay, it can also be helpful to maybe make it shorter so you can repeat it to yourself throughout the day. Is there any way you can think of making it a shorter saying?
I guess hang in there. You will make friends again.
Hang in there, you will make friends again. Seems like a great shortened version of the balanced thought.
I think so too.
You started out with a very clear image of yourself standing in the principal's backyard, awkward and alone, as the other teachers talked to each other. But given the evidence that we just looked at and your balanced thought, how accurate do you think that your original image is?
Probably not accurate at all.
I think it would be really helpful if we could develop a more realistic image of what you think will happen. Could we try?
Sure. I guess when I look at the evidence and I really think about it, a more realistic image would be of me standing in the principal's backyard, talking to the other teachers, or at least being a part of the group, even if I'm not talking.
Okay, and can you tell me a little bit more about this new image?
Well, I see myself standing there with my drink, and I'm part of a small group, and I'm listening as other teachers say something.
That's great. And can you get a clear picture in your mind of this new image?
Yeah, I can see it clearly.
That's good. And how do you feel when you get this image?
I feel a lot more relaxed about going and a lot less depressed. It almost makes me wonder if it would be a good experience.
That's great. I want you to consciously practice your new image 3 times a day. Are there maybe specific times that you could do this?
Yeah, I guess at recess, at lunch, and maybe if I run into another teacher in the hallway.
That sounds great. The practice could be very short, even a few minutes, but it's very important to practice this on a regular basis. Are there any other situations where you think that no one will want to be my friend?
I guess at the end of the day, when I leave without saying goodbye to anyone, it feels very awkward and uncomfortable.
Okay. And instead of thinking no one will want to be my friend, if you thought your new balanced thought, hang in there, you will make friends again, how do you think you would feel?
I think I would feel less depressed.
Okay. And what are some of the ways that you could remember the new balanced thought in other situations?
I guess possibly at the park when I take my kids to play or while I'm trying to participate in after school activities.
Okay. And when you think about it, you would like to go to the barbecue?
Yeah, I think it would be a good thing to do. I want to make friends at my new school, and it's just silly to avoid social events because of my anxiety.
Okay. After we did this thought record, you came up with a new balanced thought. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, it was hang in there, you will make friends again.
That's right. I'm wondering if you could remember your balanced thought when you think of going to the barbecue, if that would help with your anxiety.
Yeah, I think it would help.
Okay, that's great. As we wrap up, I'll stop screen sharing.
Okay.
I would like to give you some homework before we end today. I think it would be helpful if this week you practice your new balanced thought like we discussed, but also when you feel anxious, you notice the physical reactions and rate them similarly like we did today. Does this seem like it could be doable for you?
Yeah, that seems pretty doable.
Okay, and do you think you might have any issues with completing this activity?
No, it seems fine.
Okay, before our session's up, let's take a moment to think over what we talked about today. I think we talked about some very important things, and I want to be sure that we don't forget them. Could you write down anything you want to remember?
Yeah, I guess it's important to remember that most of my predictions just come from my nervousness and anxiety, and that they most likely will not happen.
Okay, and just to review one more time, what is your new balanced thought and how often are you planning to practice this?
My new balanced thought was hang in there, you will make friends again. And I'm planning to practice this anytime I'm anxious or when I'm not or I feel like I'm not going to be able to make any friends or feel awkward or out of place at school.
Okay, finally, I want to check in to see if we're on the right track and that you feel I'm supporting you in the best way. Can you let me know if there was anything I did that was helpful or you didn't feel was a helpful use of our time?
Yeah, I really liked how we worked through the predictions of the barbecue together. It helped me realize that the likelihood of them happening is very slim to none. I also like how we came up with a shortened version of my new balanced thought that's easier to remember, and there was nothing really that seemed unuseful.
Okay, that's great. And with that, we have concluded the role play of one of the middle sessions of therapy using the psychotherapy modality, cognitive behavioral therapy. The skills demonstrated and example questions used today are reflective of the novel CBT Made Simple by Joseph Woods, Miran, and Segal. To review, we have demonstrated the skills checking in on your client, which includes asking about new developments in your client's life, rating their overall mood since the last section, bridge to the last session, reviewing homework, and identifying any new problems. We also worked on setting an agenda for the session, ensuring you stick to the agenda, but always remaining flexible given your client's needs, identifying triggers and reactions, which includes physical reactions, feelings, behaviors, and thoughts, finding hot thoughts, creating a balanced thought, assigning homework, and finally reviewing the session and asking for feedback. Thank you for watching.